Hi guys, how are you doing today? Did you miss Ask a Lawyer stories? I have 3 new ones for you today. Let's go to the first one, about OP, who is afraid she will have to support her husband's affair child. Listen till the end of the stories to hear my comments. Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My husband impregnated his mistress. She had the baby. She got a paternity test. It's his. The baby is a few months old. She wants child support. How do I know this? She showed up on our doorstep with said baby and paternity results. I had no clue he was having an affair. His affair partner was having a baby, or that he was present for the birth and funneling her money from our savings. He is a stay-at-home dad to our 2 young children. I am the sole earner. If I don't immediately file for an at-fault divorce in Virginia, will I be responsible for paying for this child? This is all very fresh. I'm going to consult an attorney next week, just looking for some unofficial answer so I can survive the weekend with my sanity intact. Edit. The reason I'm pretty sure it's a legit paternity test is that she has filed for support. And oh yes, I plan to file ASAP, and I'm meeting with my attorney Monday. I've spent several hours plugging in numbers to the Virginia child support calculator. Even if I impute him a reasonable wage, I will owe him child support. Even if I have 80% custody, I will owe him child support. Even if he waives alimony, he will likely get a bunch from accounts, retirement, property, unless he just walks away. He wants to make us work, so I expect this is going to go downhill quickly. The thought of having to, even temporarily, finance his other child was feeling like the proverbial straw. She gets points for having the balls to walk up and hand-deliver a giant envelope of destruction, personally. I also hope she keeps him. She can have him. In my opinion, OP needs to file for divorce as soon as possible. I will explain why. He will be responsible for paying for the child, not OP. But having a spouse who did this and will owe child support is likely not attractive to OP. Once he falls behind on child support, which he will if he doesn't have his own income and OP doesn't pay, then bad things start to happen. Like his tax returns getting seized, like eventually getting arrested for contempt of court, etc. Past due child support will follow him forever, accruing interest until it gets paid. So maybe he gets a job to pay. Then OP loses her stay-at-home spouse and a big chunk of his earnings goes to this kid. OP will not have to pay this with her own money, but there is a loss to her marital partnership. In both tangible and intangible ways, he has become less valuable as a partner. Also, OP needs to keep track of how much marital money he has given to his mistress. Background: I, 27 male, met my now ex-girlfriend, 26 female, at a mutual friend's party in high school. We immediately hit it off and started dating soon thereafter. She was from a foreign country and went to a small, exclusive private boarding school for kids from ultra-wealthy families. I was local and went to a regular public high school. This small fact will become important later in the story, but at the time, we didn't care. We were just 2 kids madly in love. We were perfect for each other and were basically attached at the hip from that point. After graduating, we even went to the same college so that we could be with each other. Our mutual friends often referred to us as the perfect couple, and our worlds revolved around each other. For the next 4 years, we were together. I honestly thought I was going to marry her. Neither of us had ever dated anyone else, and we were each other's first everything. In total, we were together for over 8 years. Then, sometime almost a year ago, I had to go on a week-long work trip. She had to visit her parents. No occasion, just her yearly trip home. So we coordinated that she would go to her home country during this time. She texted me saying she needed to talk. Nothing out of the ordinary, so I told her I'd call her as soon as I was done with my meetings for the day. As soon as I heard her voice, however, I knew something was wrong. Her voice was trembling, and she made some small talk. Then she launched into it. She basically started talking like a robot, the summary of which was basically, "I love you. You've given me the best years of my life. We can never get married. You won't understand. Thank you for everything. I love you. I'm not coming back to America. I love you more than you can ever imagine. I am not in any physical harm. I am doing this out of my own will. Please forgive me." She kept repeating this. "I love you. Please forgive me. Goodbye." I asked her if she had cheated on me, and she said no, but wouldn't give me any further explanation. I honestly thought it was a joke, or I was being pranked. Then she disconnected the call. It didn't sink in until I tried to call her back and found out that she had blocked my number. I cut my trip short and took the next flight home the next day, hoping that this was some sick joke and she would be there in the apartment. When I got to our apartment, all of her stuff was gone. There was a check for basically the entire year's rent made out to me, which was left on the kitchen counter. The check was issued from her father's company. Long story short, I tried to contact her in every way I knew: texts, calls, social media, but she had me blocked on everywhere and had deleted her social media. I tried reaching out to her via mutual friends, but she didn't respond to them either. I eventually called her work, pretending to be a relative, and they confirmed that she had quit her job. They wouldn't give me any additional details. That was how our 8-year-long relationship ended. No explanation, no closure, not even a hug goodbye. She literally vanished from my life and off the face of the earth. I tried contacting her parents. I had both of their numbers on my phone in case of an emergency, and they didn't return my calls and eventually changed or deactivated their numbers when I started calling from friends' phones. Yes, I even contacted her country's embassy twice to inform them about this and to check on her. They politely listened to me, but I never got a follow-up response from them. I contacted the U.S. consulate in her country, but they told me that since she is not a U.S. citizen, there is nothing they can do. She cut ties with all our mutual friends, too. I thought about going to her country and showing up at her door, but I've never been to that country, don't speak the language, don't even know her address, and can't quit my job. Loans, plus I support my parents. In hindsight, she kept her entire life back home hidden from me. It should have been a huge red flag, but since we were living in America and she had told me she had no plans of ever moving back home, it's just something that I never bothered to learn about. Not going to lie, this whole episode really ducked me up. I lost weight, I started getting anxiety attacks, and I've had a hard time trusting people since, and I still haven't been able to sleep well. Many of our mutual friends, who were also perplexed by the situation, thought that I must have done something wrong or horrible to her and began distancing themselves from me. Although, to be fair, I may have pushed some of them away because this is all I would talk about whenever I met them. My own family and friends were extremely supportive, but after a few months told me to move on, or you don't want to be with someone who could do that to you anyways. I couldn't move on so easily, and this haunted me. I was first confused, then angry at her, and that's putting it mildly. But in my heart, I just couldn't accept that she would do something like that to me. It wasn't like her at all, and the whole thing was so bizarre. I was browsing Reddit breakups, and I came across a free service that a Good Samaritan set up for that sub. Basically, he created an app that recreates Alcoholics Anonymous online for people going through a breakup or divorce. Everyone is anonymous, and the groups are limited to 8 people. It's all text chat-based. Apart from a username, everyone is 100% anonymous. Clearly, I wasn't over my breakup, and I wanted to stop bugging my remaining friends about it. So I downloaded the app and got randomly assigned to a breakup support group. The only sorting criteria is age, i.e., you're put in a group with people the same age range as you. It worked out well, and everyone in my group really bonded and opened up to each other. I guess having the company of other people who were going through similar issues was really comforting. Everyone introduced themselves, shared their high-level breakup stories, and gave each other support. One user, let's call her Jasmine, had a story that particularly hit home with me. She had been forced by her parents to return to her home country and break up with her boyfriend in America. Yep, I was intrigued, so I moved the conversation to DMs and got to know each other better. Based on what she has told me and the way she writes, and a few obscure interests of hers that only I know about, I am 100% sure Jasmine is my ex. I haven't told her that it's me yet. I was so shocked I initially didn't even know how to react. I haven't pressed her for the full story yet, as I'm walking on eggshells and don't want to appear to be too prying. All she has said is that her parents emotionally blackmailed her into it, as her boyfriend, me, wasn't in the same league financially as her family. She's also confessed that she's still madly in love with her ex, me. She said she's never been able to forgive herself, but had to make hard decisions for her family. I haven't asked her why she ended things the way she did yet. I know it's morally questionable for me to keep talking to her anonymously when I know who she is. But part of me is afraid that if I revealed myself to her, she will freak out and I'll never know what really happened and I'll lose her again. I don't know what to do. This has been tearing me up and I can't focus on anything else. Part of me wants to jump through the phone and be with her. It feels so good to be talking to her again, even if she doesn't know it's me. I'm over the moon that she still loves me. But part of me is also very angry at the way she treated me. She just walked out on us with no explanation and never bothered to check in on me or contact me for over a year. Money was never something that we spoke about or cared about, so for her to do this over money is bizarre, immature, and despicable. The last 12 months have been hell for me, and she knew fully well what her actions would do to me. I think I have 3 options. 1. Stop talking to her and try to move on with my life. 2. Tell her it's me and see what happens. 3. Keep talking to her anonymously. Find out more and then decide what to do. I know this is morally questionable, abusing her trust, but there are so many unanswered questions here. My logical mind tells me that I'm only going to hurt myself by further indulging in this. But my heart is saying that this might have happened for a reason, and maybe there is more to this. Advice? Wow, that's a crazy story, guys. I think the best way would be to hypothetically ask what she would say to her ex if she ever got the chance to talk again. And also, if she could situationally see herself getting back together, would put in effort to make it work. If this is a no, I don't see any benefit in telling her it's OP speaking with her. If she doesn't see the possibility of it ever working out again, it will only make it harder for OP and her to these wounds. On the other hand, I think if OP told her it's him, OP could get closure and the real reason behind leaving without explanation, which I think would help both of them. My parents were in their 60s when they passed, both unexpectedly, 5 months apart. There was no will. I became the personal representative of the estate. As everything passed through probate, first from Dad's estate to Mom's estate, then from Mom's estate to my sister and I, we agreed that my sister would live in their house and take care of it while we waited for the courts to do their thing. There was a fair amount of money in the estate account after settling their debts and paying for their funerals, about $30,000. I continued to make their mortgage payments out of the estate account as probate moved forward. Probate takes a long time. In our case, it was over a year and a half. As the courts moved through the process, my relationship with my sister became more and more strained. She continually flaked on plans with me, dodged my calls and texts, and became just unpleasant to be around. I finally just gave up trying with her for a while. I had lost both my parents unexpectedly, as well as another close friend, and I felt like I'd lost my sister too. I was buried in grief. Probate finally completed, and I began to push her to move out of the house so we could get it sold. We both own 50% interest in the property. She purchased a home for herself with the inheritance money and started renovating it so she could move in, but couldn't give me a definitive timeline of when this would happen. Several months passed. The money in the estate account was running out, so I stepped up my pushing. She said she would pay the mortgage after the account ran out of money while she was getting her house finished. After 4 months of her claiming to have paid mortgage payments, the bank contacted me to let me know the loan was getting into default. No payments had been made in over 90 days. So I paid a mortgage payment from my own savings to keep us out of litigation. I then went over to the house to talk with my sister. I'd been avoiding the house since we had our argument and was shocked to discover that it looked like she hadn't done a thing to take care of the house in the time since we'd started this whole process. I was even more shocked when I realized that the power was off and that my sister had abandoned our parents' house to go live in the house she'd purchased. She'd been lying to me about having to do renovations and had been living in the new place while ignoring the mortgage payments she'd promised to pay. I believe she's been living there for at least 4 months. The house she left behind is a hoarder nightmare. There is a 2-foot blanket of garbage in every room in the house, bathrooms, hallways, everywhere. The entire house reeks of cat excrement, clothes, dishes, food, trash. Everything is everywhere. My parents' home literally looks like one of those houses you see in a crazy documentary about people who live in their own filth for years, because, sadly, it is. The in-ground swimming pool is a black lagoon in the backyard. The shutters are falling off the house, and underneath everything, all of my parents' things are still there, exactly as they were the day my mother died. Today, I stood in her bedroom and found her glasses and her checkbook tucked into the cubby beside her computer, just as if she'd left them there yesterday. While I was at the house last week, I found the body of a cat. The cat that I'd given my sister several years ago. She left the cat behind in the house with no power during the coldest winter we've had in years. When I found the cat, I realized it had snuggled into a pile of my sister's clothes to die, alone. Cold and probably terrified. At this point, I felt like my emotional fuses just shorted out. I feel hardly anything at all right now. I asked her about the cat later that afternoon, not telling her that I'd found the body, and she said she'd given it to a friend to take care of. I just let her lie. I didn't see the point in confronting her about it, because confronting her would lead to another argument and her digging her heels in on getting this house sold. My plan is to take my inheritance and repair the house to the point that I can sell it. I've already spoken with a real estate broker who's recommended a closing attorney that will deduct the money I spend on restoring the house from the money my sister will get at the closing table. I've begun this process. I met with a contractor today at the house to talk with him about the project. As long as I have the proper documentation, including dates, invoices from vendors, etc., I shouldn't have a problem recouping my losses from her, financially. But what about our relationship? It is broken right now, completely broken. As broken as the damn house is. I can throw money at the house to get it back where it should be, but money can't fix our relationship. And at this point, I don't even know if I want it to be repaired. Should I walk away from her for good to protect myself once the house is sold? Or try to work on counseling for myself and my sister? In my opinion, OP needs to follow through on the legal route to protect herself and the money that she invests in the house before it's sold. Then, after everything is divided up post-sale, she should drop her sister from her life. I'm pretty sure it's not going to get better. She took advantage of OP, lied to her, and let an animal suffer in squalor because of her deceit. Nothing good will come from continuing to let her into OP's life.